God. Going too fast. I'm taking 3.
I'm going for the St. Louis now.
Oh, no.
Son of a bitch.
You get your 2?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are taking a look at another replay, this time in a Shimmy, and the replay is submitted by Stick. Yes, we are on Tears of the Desert, and it is Epicenter. Now, I was very excited, actually, to get a Shimmy replay, because I love the Shimmy. I know, personally, I don't play mine very often, but the things that this ship can pull off just because of the torpedoes, right? The amount of torpedoes, you get 15 torpedoes that you can fire off, and I'm not 100% sure what range of torpedoes Stick is using here on his Shimmy, but I can tell you on mine I use the 12-kilometer torpedoes, but I also have the captain ability that increases the speed of those torpedoes for a decrease in the range. So I went ahead and did that, and I think what you amount to is torpedoes that are like 8.6 kilometers, maybe a little more. Again, it's been a while since I played her, so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, somewhere in and around there, and couple that with the excellent concealment of the Shimmy, and you have yourself for, a pretty damn decent ship. The primary roles of a Shimmy, well, it's not one of those, jack of all trade destroyers. It is, well, you can't really say argue it, but it is a torpedo boat. The amount of torpedoes that the ship has on it pretty much classifies it as a torpedo boat. But when you do also take a look at the guns on the Shimmy, and I know that the guns are actually quite good on the Shimmy, but they do have some drawbacks that just make them not as good as some of the other nations and their guns. And the drawbacks mainly is just simply the turret rotation, and the reload time is just longer, so you really don't get that spray out there that you could do, say, in a Gearing, a Khabarovsk. Are those the only? Yeah, well, there's the German destroyer, Tier 10. I'm not 100% sure what it's called right now, but that thing as well, right? But that being said, the guns in the Shimmy are actually really, really good, and we're going to see some gunplay here as well in this replay. Now, just because the Shimmy isn't necessarily, a jack-of-all-trade torpedo or a jack-of-all-trade destroyer, or not a gunboat destroyer, doesn't mean the Shimmy can't fulfill a few different roles. What it does mean, though, is that any role that she tries to fulfill other than, scouting and torping, she's not going to do very well. But that being said, scouting and torping is something that the Shimmy can do very, very well. Your biggest drawback, obviously, is going to be the reload and the torpedoes, and that's generally why, in most cases, when I'm in my Shimmy, I will fire the 2 spreads, leaving 1 in reserve. And I use that 3rd spread in reserve to either follow up with the first 2 spreads on an enemy ship that maybe has turned to avoid some of those torpedoes, or as insurance policy in case anything does get really close to me. I have these torpedoes that I can just lob down someone's throat, which is, always great. Have some smoke being laid down by one of our friendly destroyers, and of course that smoke is not for us, it is in fact for our allied battleships who are behind us at this point in time. So always a good call for you destroyer captains out there to keep in mind that your smoke, and I was a die-hard holdout on the idea that my smoke, I'm going to use it for me, it's mine. But through a lot of team play, ever since basically the game went open, well, full release, we'll say, through a lot of gameplay since then, it's evident and just astoundingly obvious how important it is to use your smoke on your destroyers and your cruisers, wherever you have it, for your fleet as best you can and when you can. It doesn't mean that as a destroyer you can't use a smoke for yourself. I mean, definitely, if you need to use your smoke and you have it, go for it. But don't hold off not using smoke when your team, you can see that your team is really taking a beating, specifically your battleships, right? Don't hold off on them. We have some torpedoes going out into the channel over there, full spread of 15 torpedoes, and this is an excellent spot to send your torpedoes downrange, because you know that there is going to be most likely an enemy ship somewhere in that corridor, and yes, in fact there is. There are two actually, so we should get ourselves a few torpedo hits. So there's two, there we go, first blood and a devastating strike, and we managed to take down an enemy ship. Perfect. We do still have another enemy ship off there in the distance as well, but it doesn't look like our torpedoes are going to make it. So I think based on that range, maybe it's the 12-kilometer torpedoes that Stick has here. Anyway, we catch a quick glimpse of an enemy destroyer there as well. You can see our torpedoes are reloading, but we, again, you know, still do have some decent enough guns. As long as we don't go looking for the fight, we should be able to defend ourselves relatively well. One thing that I really enjoy about the Shimmy actually is how quick she is, because that's, you know, part of my criticism for some of the earlier tier Japanese destroyers. You know, once you're spotted, it's over. It's pretty much over because you are slow and the enemy ships are most likely going to be able to chase you down. Now, not always, and it is dependent upon the skill of the captain, of course, but you're slow and there's no getting around that. So yeah, but the Shimmy doesn't necessarily suffer from this issue. She's very, very quick. So if you are spotted and if you haven't fired your guns, or you know, sometimes even if you have, you can expect to go out of sight quick enough, right? As long as the things don't get too real. So we have more torpedoes on the way for another enemy ship, and hopefully we'll take down that enemy ship as well. We're sitting on about 40,000 damage, and of course that's 100% of the hit points of that enemy cruiser we killed, which was great. I'm sure it made that person's day. We have our torpedoes on the way, but it does look like our allies have managed to finish off that enemy ship, maybe. But in the meantime, of course, we're just going to keep sort of, you know, keeping the enemy spotted, and that's something that you always do want to do in your destroyers, right? Is you want to push the boundaries, we'll say, on your detection range and where you need to be in order to continuously spot the enemy team. Obviously, you don't want to get spotted yourself, and the idea is simply just to remain at range, and you know, hopefully too, if you're in a destroyer, remain at a range where you can still spot the enemies well for your team. Maybe even still be able to lob some torpedoes downrange and remain unseen yourself by a little bit of a margin, right? Because keeping in mind, we are playing in ships, and ships don't come to a stop at a blink of an eye, right? Even when you slow it down, you're still going to roll forward, or you're going to drift around when you're in that turn. So you do want to keep a bit of a margin there. And I mean, you got to take it back to the old days of the Minakaze before they changed the Minakaze. But we still do have the Kamikaze R and the Fujin, right? So they're still relatively the same. You got to take it down to that level and sort of, you know, finesse with the range, because with those ships, you pretty much give you 1 kilometer to work with, and if you can manage to remain unseen, launch your torpedoes, maneuver around within that 1 kilometer range there, you've got it down pretty well. So we've got some more torpedoes going off into the smoke. Always a good call, right? And we know that there's an enemy ship there, because there has to be an enemy ship there who's you know, distributing the smoke. Plus, we saw that enemy battleship head into the smoke, and we're hoping that we're going to get ourselves another few kills. Well, another few torpedo hits, I should say, rather. So torpedoes look to be pretty much saturating that enemy battleship. We can see we do start racking up some kills, and then there we go. We do have an enemy destroyer to deal with, and unfortunately, our engines go down, but we do have the last stand. Now, I believe that this is a Kiev, the Kiev at tier 8 now. Very low health, because we can see that we do have some allies in and around us to help us out. They do, in fact, take down the enemy Kiev. And our torpedoes are still on the way out there. It doesn't look like we actually ended up hitting too many things with that. I thought those were for sure going to be hits, but guess not. They continue along, and we have some torpedoes coming in from the enemy destroyer that we just killed, and it was pretty tragic. I was hoping that we'd be able to avoid that one, but no, we do end up eating one. Luckily, take it to the stern, it doesn't kill us. One thing that I have learned painfully is if you are going to take a torpedo in your destroyer, do not take the torpedo in the belly. Don't do it. Just don't. If you can take it on the bow, or if you can take it on the stern, much better. It will work out better for you. Anyway, managed to avoid those enemy torpedoes, and now we're going to turn around again, keeping the enemy team spotted basically this entire time, but we're going to turn and we're going to try and get more torpedoes off at the enemies, because I mean, bringing it back to the torpedo boat, this is what we're doing. We're flinging torpedoes downrange. And, they are amazing torpedoes as well, because they do a whole bunch of damage. Now, some other torpedo boats in the game are the German destroyers, actually. Well, maybe not the whole line, but there are definitely torpedo boats in there. Like, I'm on the Z-23 right now at Tier 8, and that basically is a pure torpedo boat. It gives you the Tier 8 and the Tier 6. Actually, we might take a look at a Tier 6 replay in the next few days in the Grad. Grada, I think is how you pronounce it. But anyway, one of those German destroyers that does actually get the increased caliber guns, which makes it kind of interesting. But still, with the way the detection is working right now and all that lovely stuff, it's a torpedo boat. You're just flinging 8 torpedoes downrange as quick as you can. But the Germans do have a fairly quick torpedo reload, which is nice. It makes it a little more usable. So we do have some torpedoes going out, almost able to get into this enemy, what is that, cruiser? It's definitely a Japanese cruiser, probably a Nabuki, and hopefully we're going to take down that enemy cruiser. And Nabuki, since they've changed the Ibuki as well, amazing cruiser. I mean, I always was a fan, but now she is just fantastic. Anyway, we get a hit there on that enemy cruiser, manage to take the player down. We're in about a sweet spot now, where if we do manage to take out that enemy destroyer, we might get ourselves a double kill, maybe. Shots go in. No. Too much time has passed. Not going to happen. Enemy torpedoes come in from the enemy destroyer. Need to be aware of them so that we don't run into them, but luckily for us, they do run out of range. So the enemies do still have, or rather had, a ship in the center that was capping. Now, something to note here on Epicenter, and it became blatantly obvious to me when I was going through ranked. And it was said to me a number of times by both Sabine and Hutch. In Epicenter, it doesn't matter if the enemy team has the center cap. The center cap is not going to win or lose you the game, so don't kill yourself trying to get in there and prevent the capture of the enemy, or prevent the capture of the center cap. It's just not worth it, especially in ranked where there's so little of you on each side of the team. So, little word of advice there. Now, where, it's a little different here that we are in a destroyer in this replay, we have the, concealment to be able to actually get in here and prevent it. But, at the end of the day, do keep that in mind. You're not going to lose or win the game because of the center cap in Epicenter. Don't kill yourself trying to get it. Just play a little more cautiously, maybe. More torpedoes are on the way for an enemy battleship. Enemy Iowa, I believe, is an American battleship, at least, I hope. And we do have a few torpedo hits, and there we go. Enemy battleship is gone. Get ourselves another nice double strike. We have some more torpedoes on the way for that enemy battleship, and it looks like one of them actually did end up hitting them. And there we go. Get our nice double strike. Not too bad at all. Always a good time when you get yourself a double strike, on top of the fact that those flags are really good, the Sierra Mike flags. Now, we do have radio detection on this ship, so we do know, or rather on the captain, so we do know that there is an enemy ship over there somewhere. We're going to play it a little cautiously, make sure that we don't just, charge off and get ourselves killed by this enemy Yamato, but we do have a bit of a weight on the reload of our torpedoes, so we are going to have to pull away, and, basically at this point in time, just getting ourselves into a nice position to be able to launch some torpedoes off at that enemy Yamato. In the meantime, we do see some more enemy ships start popping up. There are only 3 enemy ships, and they're all here in front of us. And hopefully our team, and I mean, kudos, as Stick said it as well in the email he sent to me, he did make a few mistakes here and there throughout the game, but credit where credit is due, his team was there to help out and cover those mistakes, right? And make sure that, number one, Stick doesn't die, and number two, the mistakes that you're making aren't catastrophic. Because it is possible to make some catastrophic mistakes, and as the battle nears the end, becomes more and more possible for a lone single allied ship to lose the entire game for you. even win the entire game. I've definitely engaged carry mode before, and it resulted in, you know, some pretty spectacular victories, which I've shared on the channel. But still, you know, credit where credit is due. The team in this match was pretty damn decent. We have torpedoes on the way for the Yamato, and full spread 15 torpedoes, basically making sure that there's no possible way that this Yamato is going to be able to get out of the situation. There we go. Torpedo hits the Yamato. We get the kill, and that is, in fact, our 5th kill, and we get ourselves a nice Kraken. Another set of really nice flags to have. Everyone likes... what is it, more experience? I can't even remember now. Whatever. I'm thinking of the Confederate flags with the more commander experience. The Kraken must be with the more ship experience. But doesn't matter. Victory is almost ours. You can see at this point in time, right, with the 2 enemy ships remaining, the majority of our allies are focusing on that enemy ship that just went down. It was on the lowest health. And now just the 1 enemy ship remaining, while we start, you know, finishing up the cap here in Epicenter. And Epicenter really is an interesting game mode. There are those who are just completely against it and don't enjoy it at all. There's definitely those who are huge fans of it, maybe not so many of them. And then there's probably the majority of folks are, you know, fall in the category of myself, where I'm not against it. I enjoy it when it happens. It's a different game mode, and I encourage what this type of game mode promotes, and, you know, getting in better, you know, focusing on your positioning a whole lot more, and really keeping the battle sort of centered in on the center of the map at times. I enjoy that, but not everyone does, and not everyone plays it accordingly, and then that's where you run into some problems on Epicenter, is what I've found. But anyway, chasing down the last enemy ship, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get in there in time to do any more damage. Not really that big of a deal, though, because we're sitting on about 149,000 damage. Stick also shared with me that this was the first battle he played after enabling replays in ships. So congratulations. You did 2 great things. And just a shout out for anyone else as well watching, to keep in mind, you know, to please send in your replays. Definitely send the replays you have, and I will get them up on the channel as best I can. Battle is over, victory is ours, and now just a matter of checking out the results to see what we do end up walking away with. So about 10,000 experience on that one. 2,000 commander experience, 149,000 damage dealt, 647,000 credits earned. Keep in mind, we did have the premium camouflage on the Shimmy, and it is something I'd recommend if you can afford it, to put on your tier 10s. It will make a world of a difference in your in the credits that you earn. We can see how some of the damage has broken down. Obviously, Stick finished top of the team overall, and all in all, quite a nice game in the old Shimmy. Anyway, folks, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. I love reading those and responding back to them. Remember to hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.